This is why you find it hard to hear God's voice. The reason why you can't hear God's voice is because you're trying to compare how he speaks in other people's lives with you. Now, God's voice is extremely personal and different for each and every person. That's why there's no one answer to how to hear God's voice, because he speaks and he works in so many different ways that we can't number or we can't grasp. The way he speaks to me can be totally different from the way he speaks to you, because it's what's going to provide me the most clarity and understanding to where when I'm listening, I can tell, oh, that's God speaking. And it's your job to discover the same. How does he speak to you personally? In order for you to discover that, it's important that you pray and read the Bible. The Bible is the general principles and concepts of who God is, how he speaks, how he works in your life. The more you know God's word and scriptures, the more you'll understand what God is looking for in his followers. This is when praying comes into play, when you get to personally apply those concepts into hearing God's voice. Praying is your personal relationship with God. It's your direct communication with him. Your job is to close the gap between the principles, the general principles of the Bible, with your personal relationship with God. You gotta close the gap. This is to see how God works and speaks in your life specifically. Now, all these little factors come into play. Where's the best place you can hear God? When's the best time for you to focus and get super intimate with God, to where you can focus and nothing's distracting you? Now comes the age-old question. How do I know that it's actually God's voice and not my own thoughts? How do I know I'm not just being delusional? I want you to listen very closely to the principle I'm about to talk about. Faith. I know it's God's voice and not my own through faith, because the one time I decided to follow through, to take that risk, to just see if it's actually God's voice directing me, was when I truly learned how he spoke to me, and was when I truly learned how he wanted to work in my life specifically. It's the constant small steps of obedience, faith, that builds your trust and confidence in him. It's the little subtle signs that you'll be able to pick up and just say, oh, it's God, because of all that time that you spent following through what you can't see, believing in what you can't see.